This conference will now be recorded.
All right, and we'll start. Before we get into the complaints, I just want to remind everybody of the short-term rental complaint hotline. This did go live on November 24th, 2020. There's two ways to use it. The first is to call 503-325-1001. There's an operator there that'll you'll talk to. It's 24/7. It's bilingual. And if you would prefer not to call, you can always go to the online complaint form. You can find that on the Clatsop County land use page by going to the code compliance section, and there's a link there on that website to submit an online complaint. So in the fourth quarter of 2020, we received 3 complaints. They came in at the end of December. And Lodging Revs, the company that operates the complaint hotline, they've categorized the 3 complaints in 2 different categories. Essentially, these are the same complaint on the same property. And so as a result, we created 1 record for those 3 complaints. And that record has been resolved. And essentially it was an advertising violation that they were advertising for some over occupancy. Talked to the owner and they changed it promptly, and we were able to resolve that complaint. And that's all that we received for the Falcon Cove area for the fourth quarter of 2020. I think Gail had a couple of things that she wanted to mention about the Board of Commissioners work session coming up.
Yeah, so hi everybody, I'm Gail Henriksen. I'm the Community Development Director for Clatsop County, and we have a work session scheduled on February 24th with the Board of Commissioners. And the purpose of the work session has kind of two tracks to it. One is to get some input from the board about changes to the procedures that are established in the ordinance for short-term rentals that would help staff better enforce or regulate or keep inspections up and make sure that the health and safety concerns that the ordinance addresses are more readily able to be enforced by staff. So we're going to be bringing a list of recommendations to the board for their input on that. There are also, as we are aware, a lot of bigger ticket policy items that the board will need to look at and discuss and come to conclusions about what, if any, policy direction changes that they would like staff to implement. And those are the bigger issues about whether there should be caps on short-term rentals, whether there should be prohibitions on rentals completely in certain areas of the county, and how licenses should be revoked and things like that. So there's kind of a 2-track session that will be happening there. I want to be very clear because I've heard from a lot of people, and I've tried to explain this to people as I've responded to them, that staff is not going to come forward on February 24th with a recommendation to the board about capping short-term rental licenses or prohibiting them or anything to do with limitations on short-term rentals. We are going to be presenting them with all the comments. They'll be in the agenda package that'll go to all the Board of Commissioners so that they are aware of all the comments that we've received and what people are saying. But again, this is a policy decision that will have to come from the Board of Commissioners, and it's not something that staff is going to be making a recommendation on. So I do want to be very clear about that. Typically at a board work session, there is no public input at that time. This is a time for the board to discuss with them amongst themselves some of the issues that the county is facing and how they together as a board would like to move forward with that. And I know that Commissioner Thompson is with us here today, and I would like to ask her if she would like to add anything to that. I don't necessarily mean to speak for the board, but just to explain how the procedure works.
Thank you kindly, Department Director Henriksen. Isn't that a long title? I appreciate the opportunity to listen to neighbors. I've been listening to neighbors. I've been a neighbor. I remain a neighbor. Here's what I see. We're in this very interesting transition at the County Board of Commissioners. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, we have 2 new commissioners as of our January meeting. Well, it's the 5 voting commissioners who vote to decide what are the policies that the staff implements. We pass the ordinances, we define the policies. We do that by listening to people, but it is at least 3 votes on the County Board of Commissioners that direct staff. So that means one person doesn't do it, not one commissioner, not one neighbor. I've been talking with a lot of neighbors about how we frame the issue, because my thinking has, I want to say, has undergone a transition. When I was a neighbor, what I saw were the problems I had, and they weren't just with short-term rentals. Some of them, believe it or not, were with other neighbors. And I didn't necessarily have the skills or the confidence or whatever it took to resolve all those. As I'm a commissioner now for 6 years, I'm heading into my 7th year. I've had some seasoning in this regard. And I will tell you that what I see now, this is just what I see, is that we're in an issue of how to be good neighbors. It isn't about demonizing one class of people or another person at all. It's how do we work together to establish positive, constructive relationships. Public policy is an instrument. It shouldn't be used as a weapon to coerce obedience to any one person's particular point of view about what's right and what's wrong. We're in a conversation together because we live together. We're in a neighborhood together. So I appreciate the value of staff in helping us, I want to say, evolve our common conversations. I am so grateful to the neighbors who've come to me and talked to me and listened to me. I really think it's fundamentally the quality of our human relationships with each other. And for me, as a sitting commissioner, I recommend that when you come to your County Board of Commissioners, because there will be a public meeting eventually about this. This work session is just for the commissioners to talk together, as the department director said. When there is the opportunity for public input, I urge you to come together and give us input in the sense that you want us all to be good neighbors together, that we're working together for that common goal of a livable community. So thank you. I'm done. That's my request. That's my thank you. Let's carry on.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay.
All right. Our next area here is we have 10 people that have registered. They wanted to speak today. And so we'll just go through the list. We are up against the meeting here at 10 o'clock, so we're going to try to keep everybody at 3 to 5 minutes in there. I'll let Gail kind of help keep track of time so we don't run over. So we'll just go through the list. The first person on the list this morning is Guido Paparoni. Guido, are you with us today?
Yes, Mr. Robb, thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to give the following public comment, in particular to the commissioners, regarding statements by members of the Falcon Cove Beach Water District regarding water shortages in our community. First, on December 11th of 2020, the Oregon Water Resources Department approved the water rights for the well that was drilled in our community of Cove Beach. To put the importance of the water rights in perspective, the well is permitted to produce twice the volume consumed by our community in 2020. In other words, we can now support 3 times the consumption that we had in 2020. So I urge the commissioners to put these comments in perspective, whether we really do have a shortage of water or not, and if the STRs are a culprit behind this. The second comment I have is a request to the commissioners, please. Based on public comments made by members of the Falcon Cove Beach Water District Board during these STR meetings, where it is now clear that the board does not support STRs in our neighborhood, I would ask that the commissioners look into if the tiered water rates enacted by the water board are being used to discourage STR activities in our community. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Guido. The second person on our list today is Jeffrey Kleinman. Is Jeffrey Kleinman with us today?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Jeff, yeah, yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. This is Jeff Kleinman, 1207 Southwest 6th Avenue, Portland 97204. I represent Nancy Chase, who is the owner of a short-term rental in Cove Beach. She'll be speaking as well. Nancy is working with a group of other neighbors in the Cove Beach community. I had mentioned to Gail that there was a letter coming in from that group, and I now understand that that will be coming in today. And I believe one of the members of that group will be reading from the letter this morning. I want to speak very briefly, and I should first say thank you, Rob, thank you, Gail, and thank you, Commissioner, for participating in the meeting. The folks that I have spoken to who own the short-term rentals desire only to be good neighbors. We think that the number of complaints in the Cove Beach area is limited in number and scope, although there are certain complainants who are very active, as is sometimes the case. The people in question and their commentary on Cove Beach generally is that there are not corporate interests involved in ownership of short-term rental. There are not single people who own multiple rentals. These are vacation homes, and it is very hard economically to sustain a vacation home at the coast without the opportunity for short-term rental. These folks support the idea of the county contracting out, as has been discussed and may already have been done, to have 24/7 coverage of a complaint line, and they are endeavoring to do everything they can to be good neighbors to the community as a whole. So with that, I'll just wrap up and reiterate that any good neighbor policy that staff recommends or that the Board of Commissioners come up with would probably be quite agreeable to this group who are highly sensitive to the beauty and nature of their surroundings in Cove Beach, and just want to keep it going. Unless there are any questions, I'll wrap up there, and thanks very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kleinman. The next person on our list today is Jonathan Felix Lunds. Jonathan, are you with us today? Jonathan, are you with us? All right, we'll go to the next person. The next person off after Jonathan is Charles Dice. Charles, are you with us today?
Yes, I am. I actually just joined. I had some difficulties getting in, so I missed the first part, but I did have a couple of comments that could possibly already have been covered. One is that we've seen a fair amount of activity down here. Of course, it's the winter months, not nearly as much as in the summer, but we still see a lot of people coming here, and I think within the community we're reasonably concerned about the COVID-19 situation and about people coming into the community from outside. There is a travel restriction from the governor, I think, that's asking people not to travel, or if they do travel, to self-quarantine for 14 days. So that's something of concern to us. So that's all I had.
All right, thank you, Charles. I just got a message from Jonathan. He is on mute, so I'm going to try to find him and unmute him.
Rob, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I had to log in. I called in originally and it wasn't working, so I logged into the app. Thank you. Appreciate you putting the meeting on. I just want to talk a little bit about the complaints on record. I've done a little bit of digging, and through my public information request, I think it's just helpful for the whole community to have transparency into what is on record. And my request turned up 14 complaints for 2019 and 2020 for all of Falcon Cove. And with an estimated 83% of homes are part-time or vacation homes, I wanted to recognize the enforcement team in light of so much frustration kind of being directed at them for not maybe enforcing properly what people expect. When you look through all the complaints, there is a documented pattern of them very clearly enforcing the ordinance as it was written. There's also a pattern of SDR permit holders responding very proactively in an effort to avoid future nuisance issues for neighbors. To permit holders that are on record of these complaints, when receiving noise complaints after 10 p.m. voluntarily lowered their occupancy and updated the language that they delivered to their guests. So that was really nice to see. Looking through all of that the system is working in many ways, and I think there's definitely room for improvement, but we can sort those things out together, I think. I think when you look at all these complaints, it's easy to see a pattern of what I would call kind of personal preference complaints. And I think these are important to consider, but are oftentimes best resolved between owners. And I know many people already do that without sending in complaints. And I just wanted to mention that we can't really regulate good behavior among one another. And the best and most efficient way for us to find common ground and work together out of respect. And in my opinion, there's a lot of creative energy being spent on working against others at the moment. And if we applied that towards mutually beneficial solutions, we would not only strengthen the relationships in the community, but we'd probably solve most of the issues at hand. And one other thing I wanted to mention, as I've got to know more people in the neighborhood, that there's just been a really great silver lining of this issue, that there's so many amazing folks in this neighborhood that hold SDR permits and those that don't. And it's overwhelmingly clear to me that people have chosen this area because it's a really special place and that everyone really cares about the area. And every permit holder I've spoken to is very generously open to compromise and the discovery of new solutions. And I think if we all work together towards that direction, we will probably all find what we're looking for rather than one party versus another. And so the last thing I'll say is I just encourage whether you're full-time or part-time, that we should all kind of consider the relationships we're trying to cultivate. And if we fight against our neighbors in ways that aren't mutually beneficial, it's going to produce an environment that doesn't really allow any of us to enjoy the beautiful area as much as we'd like to. So thank you to everyone that is involved, and I encourage folks to continue to try to work together rather than to use the ordinance against other folks. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. The next person on our list today is Beth Radich. Beth, are you here with us today? Beth Radich, are you with us today? All right. Dale Major is the next one on the list. Dale, are you with us today? I'm pretty sure I can see Dale. I think he's unmuted. I don't hear him yet, though. It shows that you're unmuted, Dale. Not sure why we cannot hear you. I think we'll keep going here, and we'll circle back to everybody that didn't get a chance here at the ends. So everybody will get a chance again that we haven't heard from. The next one after Gail and Vivian is Nancy Chase. Nancy, are you with us today? Nancy Chase, are you with us today?
Hello, Rob. Sorry, this is Guido. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Guido.
Okay, there's a number of people that are having trouble connecting to the meeting. I've been receiving some emails. So I think there's a number of people either trying to speak or they haven't been able to connect through the web app.
Okay, that's
Right.
good to know.
The link on the county page this morning is a link to last quarter's meeting, and it just launches that recording, but it doesn't bring you to this meeting. That's what we experienced.
Okay.
Okay, this is the link that's on the calendar page.
Right. There's a link that says you can add the meeting to your calendar, but then there's also the link that says register. Actually, the registration link that's live now just launches last quarter's meeting is what it does.
Yeah, so I'm not sure which page you're looking at. Let me just have a moment, Guido, please. So if you go to the county's webpage, on the home page on the right-hand side, there's a button that says calendar. And that'll bring up this. If you click on, go to today's date and go to our meeting. Let's see here. Yeah, we shouldn't have to register. Okay. Yeah, so let me give a call-in number for everyone. That might be easier and the connection will probably be better. So the call-in number is 1-877 568 4106, and I'm going to put this in the chat box as well. And then there is a code that people can use to access it, and that access code is 309-280-477. And I just put that in the chat box as well.
Okay, thank you, Gail. Sorry for the miscommunication there. We will go back through this list of people that we haven't heard from. We'll give this a minute for people to get called in. While we're waiting, there's just two other people. Amber Geiger, are you with us today? Have you logged in? Amber Geiger?
Hi, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Amber, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Thank you for doing this, Rob and Gail and Commissioner Thompson. Thank you for being here. As a part-time resident for 11 years and a renter in the Cove for many, many years before that, I am truly disheartened by what has happened in our Cove. At its core, my concern is that we are dealing with discrimination. It appears to be a campaign by a very few of misinformation, discrimination, and even harassment. The Cove has a long history of the majority of homes being second homes and vacation homes. My family personally takes great pride in sharing our beautiful cabin. I think there's someone else unmuted. Okay. My family personally takes great pride in sharing our beautiful cabin and the beaches that Oswald West made public for a reason. We are able to share our home with others so that they can discover a connection with nature and enjoy the public beaches of Oregon. It is not just meant for the very few that can afford properties here. We are all very blessed to be having this conversation. I know that all of the short-term rental owners want to be good neighbors, and I encourage all of us to work together and not cultivate an environment of discrimination, but one of love of nature and working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. Alan Solaris is the next one on our list. Alan, are you with us today? Alan Solaris, are you with us today? All right, we're going to go back up to the beginning of the list and go through anybody that we've missed. Beth Radich, have you been able to log in today? Beth, have you joined us? Dale?
Okay, if anybody's
I
on
know
the,
Dale and
hold on, Rob, hold on a sec. If anybody's on the
okay.
phone, if you hit *6, that will mute and unmute your phone. So if Beth is one of our callers, you may have to hit *6.
All right, Dale Major, are you with us, Dale?
Okay.
I can
Yes.
hear.
My
Yes,
name
I
is
can hear
Dale
you.
Major.
Go ahead, Dale.
My name is Dale Major, and I'm an occasional resident of Cove Beach. I don't live there full time. However, we do have a place there, my wife and I. And my request to the board is for policy. And I still maintain I would like to see the board consider a policy for short-term rentals to require a full-time on-site host for the vacationers that's being brought in. And that's really what's happening is the number of vacationers that's being brought in. By having a host there, they'd be able to navigate a number of things that are actually problematic in our area. One is occasional power outages. Another is spotty communications, referring to cell phones and actually internet. And also there's safety concerns. And with an on-site host, they would be able to tell when too many people are being brought in as guests to their vacationers. So I think this is a serious consideration that the board should look at. Right now, actually, there's large organizations that's getting in the short-term rental business. One is Marriott, who's already moved into the Cove Beach area as a renter, and their rates are outrageous if you want to look it up. But I guess that's outrageous to me. Anyway, let's have a full-time host to navigate all these tourists that we're requesting to, that the short-term rentals are requesting to come into our area. Simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Vivian, are you there, Vivian?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
All right, yes, Vivian, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, 3 points. Thank you for having this opportunity to say something. Wanted to address the pandemic, which is probably the biggest thing that we have going on in our world. First of all, it's difficult to understand that how in a county where we have an extremely high risk of COVID, and we are asked by the governor to stay in our own areas, and if we have to leave the state or leave our area, that we self-quarantine for 14 days when we come back so that we don't infect other people, that we can continue to have visitors, vacationers who are coming to the coast. I can get it with Portland people. My gosh, the coast is so close. There are rental places really nearby. I get it for them, but I really have a hard time understanding how the platforms like Vacasa or Verbo or Turnkey are allowing or encouraging people to continue to rent, where people have to actually fly in, they rent a vehicle, they have to buy their groceries, they come down to the coast, they have to ask where the place is, they stay in a place, they interact sometimes without masks with the people who are local, who are there, and then they leave. That seems not very neighborly, for one. And secondly, with that, what really bothers me is watching the turnover. The cleaners, they're being put at risk. They will literally be waiting at 11 o'clock for the people to leave because they have people coming in at 4. So they are waiting. Those people drive out of the driveway, they drive in, they start cleaning. Often they're not wearing masks. They're being put at risk. And the renters who are coming in afterwards also don't know that there's been people just in there. There are some very clear guidelines for COVID cleaning that many are not following. Some are, and thank you for doing that. And some are only renting to local people, and some are not renting at all. And I love this, continuing to support their cleaners by saying, why don't you do some of that deep cleaning stuff that you never have time to do? And we just won't be renting for a while. And we really appreciate that. The second thing is renter safety. Just this last week, here we are going into king tides. It's wild weather. We watched it once again. A bunch of people drive up, the doors all open, kids are put into rain gear, and the whole family and the dog race down to the beach. It's high tide. The steps are not safe because the tides have just wiped them out and we can't even get to them to fix them. And they're going down unsafe steps. They're going down onto the beach and nobody else is there because it's dangerous. We have a dangerous beach. Literally, I had to race out, put on my raincoat, race out, and tell this family that it was unsafe. Again, that doesn't work very well. And yet people say, well, that doesn't fit on the complaint hotline. I can't call the manager. It's literally immediate. And that's where Dale says, having a host there, the host would say, this isn't a good idea. Let's not do this right now. Let's wait, or maybe go to another beach and maybe have a nice lunch somewhere else. But so that is a problem. And then I do have to respond to Jeffrey Kleinman's thing about no corporate investment. Again, we were appalled to see that Marriott hotels, homes and villas, are advertising a home in Falcon Cove Beach. These are right next to our neighbors and very close to us. That totally changes the dynamic. This isn't mom and pop anymore. This isn't just paying your mortgage or paying your property taxes. This is a lot more than that. And that's very, very concerning. And
when's it going to stop?
Yeah, when is it going to stop? We want to be good neighbors, but we want to be good neighbors with people we know and we can trust. So thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Vivian. Nancy Chase, are you with us? Nancy? Nancy, not hearing Nancy. Beth Radich, have you been able to join, Beth?
Again, for the people on the phone, *6 will mute and unmute your phone.
Okay, this is Nancy. Can you hear me now?
Hey, Nancy, yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to come today and listen to all this. You know, the short-term renters, I've been one since 1992. I think Cove Beach has always been an area with a lot of short-term rentals and mainly part-time owners who live in Portland or elsewhere. And so it's not only the 13, I guess is what we've counted, short-term rentals, but it's the majority of second homeowners. I think Vivian and Gail are ones too that come and use the Cove, and many of them lend their homes to their friends or their neighbors. And so you do get other people down in the Cove who aren't aware of all the rules and regulations besides the short-term rental owner renters. And I think we want to work with everybody, all the owners, and even the full-time people who may have guests to outline what some common courtesies are and beach safety. And it is a public beach. People do park there. So, you know, I'd really recommend some signs right at those 3 entries, at least by my house, about beach safety. You know, it's not exclusive to just the short-term rental owners. So, but anyway, you hear more, and we'd like to work with everybody and just find a way to be good neighbors, and everyone included in that description. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. There's a couple people in the chat that has expressed an interest to talk. We have Joseph Blecka. Joseph?
Rob, this is Alan Solaris. Are you able to hear me now?
Alan, I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, shall I go ahead? All right. Okay, I have a letter from a group of short-term rental owners. We've had to kind of organize ourselves in order to be able to respond to some of the concerns, and we're doing it not only from the viewpoint of protecting our right to be able to rent our homes to folks, and we take a lot of effort to make sure that they treat the home and the area responsibly. But anyway, so we've put together a letter, and I'm just going to read that and then submit that into the record. We're a group of owners of short-term rentals in Cove Beach. We're interested in finding ways to alleviate the concerns of our neighbors and promoting transparency, and at the same time protect our right to rent our homes. But we also understand that with rights come responsibilities. We care deeply about our neighborhood, and we understand that there have been some problems: parking, noise, garbage, lights, some people's behaviors. And as owners of STRs, we recognize that we have a special responsibility. Accordingly, we accept at the start the concept of good neighbor practices, and we invite everybody to work through issues with their neighbors directly in a spirit of respect and cooperation. For our part, Cove Beach STR owners are proactively organizing to share best practices and solutions with each other to these common problems. Many of us are already taking voluntary action to deal with and to prevent problems, including making better on-site garbage arrangements, changing intrusive outdoor lighting, enforcing or limiting car parking. But we do recognize that good neighbor practices are not always enough. We support the requirements the county has under its short-term ordinance and the regulations, and we strongly support the county's adoption of a new system to handle complaints, notifications, and verifications. And we think that this will greatly improve the county's timely and accurate response to the some of the issues raised by the residents. The county, we've taken a close look at the complaints. The county has diligently worked through the complaints it's received, even ones that don't really fall under the jurisdiction of the ordinance and are simply based on personal preference. We also believe that some of the complaints, perhaps many, make claims are exaggerated and are coming from a few upset residents who are focused on particular houses. Based on our analysis, all 14 complaints in the last 24 months have come from just 4 individuals, with 50% of them from one person. There were 2 complaints that appeared to be looked at as were legitimate and resulted in immediate and proactive measures on behalf of the permit holder to avoid future problems. 4 of the complaints were not even STR related. We can't find cases where a permit holder did not cooperate with the enforcement team to address issues. Instead, permit owners were proactive in not only addressing the problem, but implementing changes to reduce chances of it happening again. So the evidence shows a pattern of responsible action on the part of the county and permit holders, and does not justify the imposition of more restrictive measures. There are a few residents that simply don't want any short-term rentals to be allowed and are advocating for the banning of STRs. It might be noted that over 83% of homes in Cove Beach are used as second homes or vacation homes. It's inaccurate to attribute all nuisance complaints to homes with short-term permits, but we are advocating for good neighbor practices, knowing that the county cannot feasibly legislate good behavior amongst everyone in Cove Beach. Again, when we look at the complaint logs, it's encouraging to see that both the county enforcement team is diligently upholding the ordinance and permit holders are displaying generous and proactive solutions to reduce the impact on their neighbors. The problem is not so much with the STRs or with the ordinance. Let's let the county do its job and find common ground with our neighbors. There are a few who favor imposing new restrictions. We don't believe that there's evidence that's supporting further restrictions. In particular, we oppose the banning of STRs or limits on the number of licenses or number of days that a house can be rented. Current regulations are adequate, and the new complaints hotline is a good response to community concerns. Let's give it a chance to work. It's been claimed that there's large commercial interests that are purchasing multiple homes and irresponsibly renting them out for profits. Our research indicates that there are not any owners who hold multiple STR permits, and that all are owned by part-time residents who use them as vacation homes, as well as renting them out. And I'm just going to add a note here that the previous comment about the Marriott, that's an advertising platform. That's not, Marriott doesn't own the home. It's like VRBO or something. Okay, back to the letter. And as far as making a profit, any owner can tell you that these houses do not rent a sufficient number of days or at a sufficient rate to make a profit. In fact, many owners can't afford to own these houses without renting them to offset the costs of ownership. We believe that we should welcome Oregonians and folks from other states to enjoy Oregon's beautiful coastline while staying in a home, just as we want to be welcomed when we visit and stay in beautiful homes when we go on vacation. Enjoying a stay at a beautiful warm house here should not be restricted to the lucky few who can afford to own one. In fact, some owners couldn't afford to keep their homes without the extra income. Lastly, we note that tourism is an essential component of the local economy, and since many people, especially families, choose to stay in a home rather than a traditional hotel or motel, it is in the interest of Clatsop County to encourage short-term rentals, provided they are run and regulated responsibly, as they are a means to strengthen employment and the economy. So thank you for consideration of our rights and responsibilities. We'll be pleased to work with the county and our neighbors to keep improving the contributions made by short-term rentals as a unique and desirable part of our community. This has been signed by 22 owners and co-owners of short-term rentals in Cove Beach. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. Next person on the list today is Casey Hansen from the chat. Casey, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
All right, yeah, Casey, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. I want to open, like so many other have, express genuine gratitude for the county opening this up and taking in everyone's opinions. My name is Casey Hansen. I work for Turnkey here on the Oregon coast. I'm been sitting in on meetings like this up in our territory, which goes from Florence to Astoria, over the last week and preceding months. Mostly I've sat passively, you know, taking in information that would be important for us to know to help our homeowners be good neighbors and to run short-term rentals in a responsible way. Lately, our active homeowners and a not small group of prospective homeowners I've been working with who've been getting pushed out of the market has asked me to speak on their behalf. I'd like to start by saying I think Joseph did an amazing job summarizing the situation and looking at the data. Time and time again, we find that short-term rentals are actually operating in a very positive way in these communities, but a very passionate group of people feel like they are not welcome. I'd like to speak also to the Marriott situation and clear up any misconceptions there. Marriott is an advertising partner of Turnkey. The home that they have advertised in Falcon Cove is managed by Turnkey. Marriott just, as he says, advertises it, but also refers their prime card holding members to stay there. There is no purchasing of properties, nor do they have any plans to purchase property. In fact, their partnership with us is a strong signal of that. They don't even want to manage short-term rentals. They are just providing more and more looks at these homes so people can do well. I do really find the conversation today extremely heartening. I heard a lot of people who are looking for solutions, and to back up what Joseph said, I hear that mostly on the short-term rental owners' parts, looking for solutions. And I think as a property manager, Turnkey, it's a big part of our job to look for those solutions, to be a part of those solutions. My history in the industry has shown me I've seen waves of regulations sweep through mountain towns and, you know, go from one extreme to another, finally finding a balance, which usually ends up being good management and proper zoning being the solution. Ultimately, I think you can step back and have a very pragmatic look at the interests involved. To not be a beneficiary of the short-term rental industry in Falcon Cove, Clatsop County, or anywhere else, you would have to be in a very specific situation, and that would be living and not working in the community. If we are to do things like put a cap, it's not a question of short-term rentals versus not short-term rentals, of homes with guests and not. You'd be moving towards a future of ghost towns. The US economy and Oregon and markets like the coast are the mountain ones that I came from. Homes are being owned more and more by fewer and fewer people. So while it may benefit some people to be the only person living on the block, it would be at the expense of everyone, including the county. The TRT revenues through Clatsop County, I'm sure you guys are very familiar with, but we're talking of tens of millions of dollars. And as you step up regulation practices and try and limit the revenue that would support those practices, would just be nonsensical, in my opinion. I'd like to speak directly just to one thing. A on-site manager sounds like a fantastic idea. In fact, having managed homes, I would love to be that. But that is one example of many examples I could give of people who are not friendly to short-term rentals offering solutions, which are really nuclear options. To have an on-site rental manager, you would have to have a multi-family home. They would have to have their own living space, kitchen, etc. Also, they would have to be compensated. And as mentioned by Joseph, that would for every, as somebody who's looked at this market, done estimates for incomes, that would break the model, the business model for all the short-term rentals in the area to support a full-time year-round in-house manager would take away from the income and basically put them underwater. Again, thank you for the time. I hope that anyone who does have concerns can feel comfortable reaching out to us here at Turnkey. As mentioned by some of the people, I think Jonathan at the beginning, this is about cooperation, and we would happily create relationships. So when you don't know who to call, we want you to be able to call us. Again, speaking from my experience in multiple markets, once the neighborhoods reach the situations where they are communicating with effective management, they can really solve a lot of the problems that are being put on the burden of the county right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Casey. I just want to clear one thing up. The person that spoke before Casey here was Alan Solaris. Joseph's microphone was not working at the time.
Yeah, the last one we have is Joseph.
All right, is that working now?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks for the opportunity to speak. You know, I'd say if anything, this last year has taught us all it's a time of transition. And, you know, I think if you look where the Cove was 10 years ago, it's a lot different than where it is now. And you can still hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah. So I just, you know, I'm a full-time resident in the Cove. Only lived here 2 years, but it's a beautiful place. We all agree on that. That's something we definitely do. You know, I just want to know what what's the plan for the next 10 years, right? I want to live here for the rest of my life. I want to raise my family here. When we first bought the house, we did have it as a vacation rental. It was real easy to make money. We had a profit in our first year. So, you know, I think it's something that we need to think about. I don't necessarily think that, you know, short-term rental should be banned, but I also I want to know that there's a plan in place. I want to know that I'm going to have neighbors that my, you know, family can you know, speak to. And as Casey mentioned, if there's no future other than the vacation rental business model, or that these, you know, if we put some sort of cap on it, you know, it's already been proven in the county that every other, you know, township, Cannon Beach, you know, Arch Cape, they all have ordinance and it works. I'm not saying that, you know, personally everything needs to be outlawed or banned, but I do personally want to have a community. I want to be part of a community. I want to live in a place that's beautiful. I want to share it with friends and family. I think others should be able to do that, but to only allow it, to leave it unregulated, essentially, what I am seeing is that that's driving investments into the area, and it concerns me. And so, you know, I think I do actually agree with everybody that we need to work together. We need to find a common ground, but I don't know that just leaving it up to the neighborly conversations is going to be the only solve. And that's been proven around many different models. That's why there's some sort of ordinances in Manzanita, Arch Cape, Cannon Beach, Seaside, Gearhart, you know. So I think we just all need to think about the future, think about what this place can be, what the potential of it is, work together to find that solution, because it's a great place and we all want to protect it. So that's kind of all I have to say. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. This is Gail again. I just want to issue a clarification there. The county does have a short-term rental ordinance, and part of the reason why we started these quarterly meetings is that we were receiving complaints, and so we wanted to be able to share with the community how code compliance works with regard to the short-term rental ordinance, and then to come back once every quarter and give people an update so that there was an additional layer of accountability and transparency. So just to be very clear, we do have an ordinance in place.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Those are all the people on the list that we've been able to get unmuted today. I'm not sure if there's anything else, but I just want to thank everybody for participating and all the written comments that are being collected and will be provided to the board for their work session. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can reach me at phone or email, I don't know, Gail, if you have anything else.
Yeah, just a reminder of the Board of Commissioners workshop, which is February 24th, and that will be at 5 p.m. The agenda item is due to the board secretary on February 12th. So shortly after that, I will make sure that Rob and myself get that emailed out to everybody we have an email address for. And then it'll also be available on the county's website as part of the commission agenda package. We do have an Arch Cape meeting. If anybody's interested in Arch Cape short-term rental issues, that's tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And then Thursday at 9 o'clock, we'll be meeting with residents and short-term rental owners in the Clatsop Plains area, which is the Gerhardt Seaside area. Otherwise, thank you to Rob and Commissioner Thompson for being here today. And thank you for everyone who participated. Thank you.